two cameras. Let's see this one.
And then this one.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
we are live. Hey, this is John Lees with Dogfin Studios, and we are here at the wonderful House of Dragons experience here at the West Chase Marriott. It has been an interesting time.
Yes, it definitely has. And we have an awesome guest with us. This is UFC fighter Matt Schnell, nicknamed Danger. Welcome. It's really excited to meet you.
No, thanks for having me. This was somewhat unexpected, but I'm good. I'm good. I can do it.
So tell us about you, who you are, what you do, why you do it.
I'm a UFC fighter. I've lived in Houston for about 5 years. I'm originally from Shreveport, Louisiana. I have 2 children. That's about it. I've been fighting now for about 15 years. Started fighting after I graduated high school, and it's been a journey. I think it's been as good as the martial arts journey can be. So it's cool to be here at the House of Dragons experience with young martial artists. They're kind of, it's cool to see the sparkle in their eye because there's a place to take it nowadays, and there wasn't always. Martial arts didn't always have an outlet where you could go and make a life for yourself, make a living, and build something. And now you do with things like the UFC, things like Karate Combat, which Will Esparza recently competed in. But yeah, so that's me. That's about it.
So what got you started into even doing this?
I started training. That was the summer of 2008 after I graduated high school. And I played sports, but I was a little guy, so I wasn't going to play in college. And I just needed something to stay physical. I was already even at 18 years old, you stop moving around. I was getting skinny fat. I could tell. I was like a small guy, so I wasn't getting big, but I was just soft. And I was like, I got to do something. So my buddy got his fake ID taken at the local steak house, and the police officer that took his ID, a man named Brent Mason, he ran an MMA school, and he told my friend that night when he was trying to kind of reprimanding him, he was like, "You come train sometime," and he did. We all kind of followed suit, walked into the gym, started training, and here we are.
And that's history.
That's it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I'm curious, how much discipline is needed for you to train for a fight? How difficult is it to get to where you need to be to fight?
I think people overcomplicate things. I didn't know how to do it, and there's really no instruction booklet. I could give people pointers and point them in the right direction. Training is important, and I guess discipline is the right word. It's really just holding yourself accountable, continuity. If you're really trying to get something better at something, you've got to get in the gym and work at it. You've got to rep it out. And I didn't know that before I started doing martial arts. I played sports. I played football. I ran track. I wrestled a little bit. But I just always figured guys are physical, guys are big, they're good at this stuff naturally. And you could build skills, but it wasn't until I started doing martial arts that I realized you can get better at stuff if you work on it and understand it and conceptualize it and then rep it out. So training and having discipline, it is important. But I also don't think it's always about going hard all the time. Discipline's one thing, continuity's one thing. Getting reps, but you got to be smart too. You shouldn't spar too much. You shouldn't be taking too much punishment. There's good ways. There's smart ways to improve. So, but you got to get in the gym and train. And the guys I see that are successful, ultimately, it's the guys that I'm not looking for. They're always in the gym.
Always in the gym. Wow.
Just want to get to the wonderful questions of the evening. What has been your scariest moment in one of your fights?
Scariest moments? It's hard to say because when you're in there, it's almost I was just talking to Will about this, almost outer body type. You are, and as you get better and more experience, I think you can be more present. But I can't. It's hard to track. When I'm hurt in the moment, I can't even. I don't feel the anxiety and the fear.
Really?
I do know, I've been hurt and I've been finished and not completely unconscious, but I knew it was over.
Yeah.
And that's a heartbreaking moment. But I don't know I will say that early on in my career, I fought a guy on short notice because that would happen a lot.
Okay.
When you're coming up, say, like if I'm fighting in my hometown, and I sell a bunch of tickets. My opponent backs out 2 weeks before.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe a solid opponent, maybe a guy with like a 500 record, or somebody who's
Right.
notable enough to fight. But then if that guy backs out, then they have to find somebody who replaces that guy. And oftentimes that's somebody that's not that good. And that's cool. It's like, okay, I'm fighting a guy that's not that good unless you lose to that guy. So that's always a scary moment. And I do remember I fought a kid in Mississippi, and I was the more notable guy. I was coming in. I think it was my opponent, the guy that I was supposed to fight. He backed out a couple weeks out, so we had to replace him. Ended up replacing him with a guy that had like a middling amateur record, but I think he was upside down as a pro. And I come out and we start the fight, and I can't remember exactly what happened. I shoot on him, but he like gets a Kimura and flips me to my back. And this guy's like 1-3, and I think maybe I was 4-2 or 5-2 at the time as a pro. So my record's not great, but this is a pivotal moment. And I almost lost this, or felt like I was about to lose to this guy who was just really, really strong, got a Kimura grip and turned me to my back. And I ended up like inverted triangling him, like scrambling out of the spot. But that was a scary moment. Wow. So, yeah. Almost lost to a guy I really shouldn't have.
Okay. So on the flip side of that, do you have any funny moments that you've ever experienced in fights? Anything that was weird or hilarious?
A lot of funny moments in the gym.
In the
like,
gym?
There's always funny moments. Nothing really comes to mind as far as funny moments, though. So I did fight in Singapore, UFC Singapore. This was, I think, in 2018. I'm not exactly sure, but what happened? So the kid I was fighting, he was a calf kicker, and that's a kick that's really come a long way here recently. Like people getting picked apart by calf kicks. So I was getting ready for the calf kick the whole fight, and we come out and he tried to calf kick me, and I checked it and I pointed at him like, "Hey, I've got that. I'm looking for it." And right as I pointed at him, he jabbed me in the face twice. Bang, bang.
Oh.
And the same thing actually just happened recently. I checked the kick against Sumu Derji. Same thing. I pointed at him, and he hit me with a cross that busted my nose. Right when I was kind of like, haha, bang. God. So I got to be careful with that.
Jeez.
Some people get away with like wagging their finger and being playful in there. I got to be careful.
Oh, man.
I guess we sides with the those kind of moments. I guess you ever experienced anything that was like a Mike Tyson moment in the ring, or seen something like that?
Like somebody get their ear bit off?
Along those lines, something crazy.
Oh, I did. So this was in Shreveport, Louisiana. We were fighting at there's a venue called The Stage, but it was like the back of a steakhouse. They just had like a nice area. It was a pretty cool show, but a girl named Andrea Lee, who's actually in the UFC now, she fought that night, and it might have been her pro debut, or maybe it was her second pro fight. It was early on in her pro career. But the girl she fought, she was like holding her hands out like this, and Andrea kicked, and Andrea actually kicked her finger off. It just the way that the kick landed on her finger, and it went viral. Like I'm pretty sure if you type it into YouTube or Google, you can find a video where maybe you don't get to see the footage, like the whole thing, but yeah, kicked her finger off. It was the wildest thing. Obviously, TKO won the fight, wild night, but yeah, Andrea Lee kicked the girl's finger off. So that was pretty wild.
That's intense. How was the gal who got her finger kicked off?
I'm not sure. I haven't checked up on her. I hope she's okay. I hope she's okay. I hope she's good.
Oh my God.
Getting along fine without her finger.
Wow. Well, we know that when you fight, usually you're matched up with people in your weight class, very specific. In training or any other areas, have you had to fight against people who are very opposite of you or different?
Oh yeah, especially early on when you're coming up, you train with who's there. So big guys, small guys, everything in between. You just have to work with whoever's standing in front of you. So yeah, especially early on, there was a lot of that. Now that I'm, there's a lot that goes into this. We fight for a lot of money, so I try to take care of. Like I'm not training with anybody I'm not comfortable with.
Oh,
So no David and Goliath situations anymore.
Sure, there's no reason to train with. And now, if it's my buddy or somebody that I have some type of there's a kid that I used to train, Matt Costello. I'd move around. He's a heavyweight, but he's my boy. So like, if I'm moving around with him to help him get ready for something, that's one thing. But when we're training, when I'm going, like I don't even train with Will. He's too big. Like I train with guys my size at this point.
gotcha. And you're talking about Willis Sparsa.
Willis bars.
Yeah.
You both seem like the same height.
Stature-esque. He's big. He's a big boy. Sensei Will.
Who is like the biggest type of person that you ever fought? Is the heavyweight person that you
Wait,
spar
the
against?
biggest
Yeah, like
person?
who's the biggest person you fought against?
We've trained with some big guys in the gym. Like when I used to train at American Top Team too, I would grab a hold of some big guys, and
Yeah.
it was oftentimes fun rounds because most of these guys, they know how to work. So even though I'm smaller, you can have it's fun. It actually is fun to get in there and mix it up with the bigger guys. Like even when I go to Dallas, Coach Safe will get on to me, but I'll square up with Jeff Neal. I like to spar even Alex Morono. And I'm kind of joking about Coach Will because I will spar with him too. He's a guy that I trust, and we can playfully like get along and do it.
Nice.
But yeah, for the most part, I try to stick with the smaller guys. But there are like Jeff Neal. He's a big dude. He'll hit you. You gotta be careful with him.
Oh,
But it's fun to. I like to mix it up. It almost like playing tag, but
oh, really?
with punches.
So different type of feel.
Yeah, a little more on the little more at stake, but. It's fun.
We'll sidestep a little bit here.
Yeah.
So we heard that you're on a wonderful show on MTV. Was it was called Caged, I believe?
Caged. Yep.
Caged.
I was
Tell us
on
about your
MTV's Caged. That was 2012. I was. We shot the first episode like in 2010, like the pilot episode,
wow.
and we knew that they were going to take it and shop it around, and it was reasonably high. Like especially for the time, it was pretty high quality. At the time, Louisiana had a lot of tax breaks and things like that for filming. There was a lot of filming going on. Shreveport, Louisiana, they were calling it the Hollywood of the South at the time. It was a lot of filming. They filmed a lot of movies in Shreveport. But anyways, for whatever reason, this opportunity came about, and I remember trying out for it. I tried out, showed up to a casting call, tried out. And originally, I wasn't even cast as a main character. I was kind of a side character, but I became a main character through it. And I think one of the guy that made it happen, a guy named Will Broyles, who Ring Rulers was his promotion. He's still in Shreveport. He doesn't promote fights anymore, but he was an executive producer. And I think he pushed hard for me to be on the show because I could fight. And he was like, "Hey, listen, I know you guys want these characters, and it's fine. This can fight, though. We need at least one kid that can fight." So. Consider it. So I ended up being a bigger part of the show. Yeah, and it was one season, 2012, kind of opened a lot of doors for me. It was cool because it set me on the path. I really didn't I thought, yeah, maybe I'll fight in the UFC one. Actually, at the time, the flyweight division maybe had just gotten added to UFC because it wasn't even a thing for a while. When I started fighting, there wasn't a flyweight division in the UFC. It was the WEC, and I was a fan of that. So I don't know. I started with no expectations, and it's been a wild ride. And I think Cage kind of put me on the path. Like, yo,
That's really cool.
it made me A-side too a lot of times, and it made me a person of note. Painted a little bit of a target on my back. Like I would get people's best. Like I think people really, when I would fight, especially early on, these guys, they really wanted to beat me because I was somebody of note. But it was good. I think it molded me into being a better competitor.
That's really awesome. So,
Also,
go ahead.
whenever you're doing that show, did MTV put any restrictions on y'all when you were shooting or anything like that?
No, I mean, no. They wanted it to be as real as possible.
Oh,
So no restrictions. They prefer us not like doing drugs and stuff on the screen, but there was none of that. So no restrictions. They wanted more, I think they wanted more access to me, which is wild because my mama, she turned them loose. Like I'd wake up in the morning, roll over, I'm getting out of bed. I'm like, Mom, what the heck? She was sold though. She loved it.
Well, that's awesome. It's really not that kind of support
Yeah,
in your life. Was your family a big support for you?
yeah.
That's
I think early on, I was not a highly successful young man. So I think early on, support's hard to buy, especially when you. I spent a lot of time being upset at people for like not believing in me when I was
Oh.
young, but that was silly because honestly, now that I've had some time to reflect, like I'd never given anybody to believe in me before I started fighting and trying to pursue this. I kind of knew that I could. I always felt like I'd do something, but as far as my family goes, I would be like, especially early on when I first got UFC, I kind of with a chip on my shoulder, I'd be like, yeah, I did it. Nobody thought I could, but now I've kind of gotten past that because why would they? Now that I've thought about it, why would they? Why would they think you could?
That's a very humble way to think.
And it's also not like anybody from my area had ever done it before, so there hadn't been a path laid.
Oh.
And then Dustin Poirier is from Louisiana, and I kind of put his coattails there early on when he had gotten into the UFC. I went and trained with those guys, so there was a path, but nobody else did. And so it's interesting. It's interesting, but I'm not mad at people anymore for not believing in me.
Well, that's amazing that you can have that kind of attitude and growth.
Well, I just do it just so when I don't believe in somebody that's successful, I can be like, well, look at what I said.
There you go. So, what's the biggest piece of advice? What's the biggest piece of advice you would tell yourself if you could go back in time and talk to yourself as a kid?
Probably the same things I got to tell myself now. Like, just one day at a time, calm down. It's probably not as bad as you think it is. I think we all make mountains
Out of molehills.
out of molehills. Yeah. Nothing different. It's wild because this journey's been crazy, but I've just stumbled and bumbled the whole time. So I guess trust the process. But what is the process? Putting one foot in front of the other.
I think that's all we got for you today.
Awesome. Thank you all. That was fun.
We appreciate
What
you
is
coming
this?
in. This is just basically a podcast setup.
Dogfin Studios?
Dogfin Studios. Yep.
Yeah, I would like to get access to it. I think we had some good moments here.
Yeah, we'd
appreciate
be
you
more
guys.
than happy to.
Nice to meet y'all. No,
You as well.
no questions about comic books.
Well, if you'd like to go there.
I'm not really privy on comic books. I am a card collector, though.
Okay, tell us
I'm
about that.
I'm
Yeah.
really heavy in the sports card community. I collect football cards, and here they recently came out with UFC cards. So I have a rookie card out there.
Oh, do you?
So I went
really?
heavy. I went in and
Oh,
collected it.
wow.
I've got every make and model of it. I control the market of my own card because I have so many of them. So
That's amazing.
yeah. So talk about things coming full circle. I do throughout my career, like things come and go. It's hard. I've never had a moment where it's like, like where you get to stop and smell the flowers. It's never felt like that. It's just been one moment after the other.
Yeah.
It's always we're looking at the next fight. There's not much time to like really relish and think accomplishments. But the most accomplished I've ever felt is when I realized that I was going to have a sports card because I'm a sports cards guy. So yeah, that was a big moment for me. So shout out to Panini for making a young man's dream come true because that special moment.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's like I was saying. Did you realize you made it? Either a toy, a card, or an action figure?
Yeah, the toy's the next, and I'm hoping to make the video game. I've been top.
Oh, no way.
I've been top 15 in the UFC for at least 4 years now. You would think I'd make the game. I haven't yet. Maybe this year. Maybe
That
this
would be
year's my year.
so cool to be in a game. Oh my gosh. So that had any impact on your life, like gaming and fighting games and things like that?
I mean, yeah, I've came up playing video games and with my brother and Street Fighter and wrestling games and all of that stuff. So
So being part of that would be huge.
It would be big. Yeah, another. I mean, I'm a modern young man. We're of the same generation.
Yeah.
So being in a video game,
Yes.
being a toy, being on a sports car, like these are the things that, speaking generally for young men from my generation, I think that's on a lot of guys' bucket lists. So.
I think that's amazing. Maybe someday somebody hears this.
I just gotta, winning fights solves everything. That's the thing. Ultimately, it's all up to me because I keep going out there and whipping people. This stuff's gonna fall in place. That's how it's always been. And even going to what we were talking about before, people not believing in you.
Yeah.
Like, nobody owes you their belief.
No.
But you go out there, you do what you say you're gonna do. People aren't stupid. They're gonna come around.
Well, that's integrity. That
in my
creates trust.
In my experience too, everybody's fault. The people who didn't believe, my mama, she's my biggest fan. Was my biggest fan. God rest her soul. My dad.
I'm so sorry.
Everybody.
Mhm.
They all fell in line. So they don't believe in you until they do.
Right. That's amazing. You have an awesome story.
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate you telling it.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
For sure. Thank you.
That's it. Wrapping up.
Thank you for stopping by. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thank y'all.